So over the weekend, President Trump posted Truth Social a video highlighting what most people call the Clinton body count, which is the strange number of suicides that seem to happen in Clinton circles. I have a headline here from the Washington Post that said, Trump peddles false conspiracy theories tying the Clintons to several deaths. So I just wanted to highlight real quick, this wasn't in Trump's video, but this is from the Arkansas Times, and it's the death of Mark Middleton, who was a former Clinton White House aide, who was found dead on a Clinton Foundation property. And I'll just quote from the Arkansas Times. Middleton apparently shot himself in the chest with a shotgun and also hung himself from a tree with an extension cord. So I have no idea how somebody commits suicide that way, but if the Washington Post is here, maybe you can enlighten us as to how that was actually a suicide. So anyways, that's just a lead into my question about the most famous Clinton-related suicide, which is that of Jeffrey Epstein. There's still a lot of questions around that case. You've released phase 1 of the Epstein files. What was missing from that is any connection to his ties to intelligence agencies, and that's really the whole story, that not just trafficking young girls, but doing it on behalf of intelligence agencies, and even potentially as part of a blackmail ring with potential ties to the Israeli government. So for phase 2, when can we expect it? Will it have information pertaining to those aspects of the Epstein case?
I know the Attorney General has committed to releasing those files. I would defer you to the Department of Justice on her timeline, but when she has made a promise in the past, she has kept it, and I'm certain that she will in this case.
Getting under Donald Trump's skin is very easy to do. He is so insecure, angry, and constantly lashing out that making him upset not a challenge, but living rentree in his head certainly is, and for better or for worse, VP Harris has accomplished that. And we saw it not just in Donald Trump's midnight meltdown yesterday, but in the insane threats he is now attacking VP Harris with, and a meltdown that we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into the crazy threats that Donald Trump is now making, doing anything but actually focusing on the promises he's made and failed to keep during his administration, I want to start with a call out from VP Harris that got this all started. This clip right here.
Now, of course, I recognize that America has never fully lived up to these ideals, that for all the gains we've made, the American dream has for decades been slipping further out of reach for so many, and that the American people deserve leaders who make their lives better and make our country stronger. But sadly, we have seen quite the opposite over these past few months. Now, I know tonight's event happens to coincide with the 100 days after the inauguration, and I'll leave it to others to give a full accounting of what has happened so far. But I will say this. Instead of an administration working to advance America's highest ideals, we are witnessing the wholesale abandonment of those ideals. And what we are also seeing in these last 14 weeks is Americans using their voice and showing their courage.
I think Vice President Harris hits on something that is a real sentiment being felt by everyone in America. And that includes Donald Trump's most ardent supporters, that this is an administration that is fundamentally unfocused. They do not care about any of the things that they promised that they would fix. that they would address Donald Trump is not only not lowering prices, but they're going up because of his idiotic tariffs, a plan that is only being carried out because he likes the word and because it's a way to do maximum corruption. That's really the whole point. It's been an administration focused on enriching himself and enriching other billionaires. All the while, Donald Trump is attacking people. He sees as his political enemies wasting time that he should be spending keeping his promises, but of course, he was never going to do that. This was always just going to be about his own personal grievance. And we saw that with Donald Trump's recent attack on Taylor Swift that Carolyn Levitt was asked about, and it's important context for what just happened.
What does President Trump mean when he says that Taylor Swift is no longer hot?
Look, he is speaking about Taylor Swift's political views and how perhaps it has impacted the support of the American public for her work, and I will leave it at that. Annie, go ahead.
So Donald Trump, in a very weird and gross and uncomfortable for all of us, announced recently that Taylor Swift is no longer hot to him, and whatever context you want to take, that makes you the least uncomfortable, because boy is it gross. But why is he doing this? Why is he attacking Taylor Swift? Well, it's because Bruce Springsteen recently spoke out against Donald Trump at a concert in which he delivered an incredible takedown that we're going to check out a little bit later. But that has led Donald Trump to revisit a pet issue of his, which is all the celebrities who like VP Harris and hate him. And now he is threatening VP Harris because of some conspiracy that he's come up with, the reason that they all endorsed him. And you can see that in this very strange article right here. Trump demands major investigation into Beyonce and Springsteen appearances in late night rant. Trump demands major investigation into Beyonce and Springsteen appearances at VP Harris rallies in late night rant. Donald Trump escalated his feud against Bruce Springsteen in a late-night all-caps rant calling for an investigation into the legendary rocker's performance at a VP Harris rally last fall. Springsteen kicked off his Land of Hope and Dreams tour last week by saying the U.S. was in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration, leading the president to fire back that Springsteen was a dried-out prune of a rocker who ought to keep his mouth shut, after the boss responded at his show Saturday by calling Trump an unfit president whose administration was persecuting people for their right to free speech and voicing their dissent. Trump once again used social media to accuse Springsteen, along with Beyonce, Oprah Winfrey, and Bono, of making illegal contributions to Harris's campaign. How much did VP Harris pay Bruce Springsteen for his poor performance during her campaign for President Trump? Wrote, "Why did he accept that money if he is such a fan of hers? Isn't that a major and illegal campaign contribution? What about Beyonce? And how much went to Oprah and Bono?" I am going to call for a major investigation into this matter. A senior advisor and spokesperson for the Hammers campaign told Deadline that the campaign did not pay for celebrity support. Oprah Winfrey has previously said she was not paid a dime for the town hall she hosted, Deadline and other outlets reported. Instead, the campaign paid her company, Harpo Productions, to provide sets, lights, cameras, microphones, crews, producers, and even the chairs used during the live event. I did not take any personal fee when free Roach. However, the people who worked on that production needed to be paid and were. End of story. Trump nevertheless claimed in his post that Harris had paid for the endorsement. Candidates aren't allowed to pay for endorsements, which is why Harris did under the guise of paying for entertainment. His social media post continued, "It's not legal for these unpatriotic entertainers. This was just a corrupt and unlawful way to capitalize on a broken system." So obviously, VP Harris didn't pay for endorsements, but a corrupt and broken system that someone is capitalizing on. Say you, Donald, who does that, remind me of maybe yourself, maybe your new toy, your big bribe of a jumbo jet. Is that not a bribe through a corrupt system in which Pam Bandy is saying that it's all legal because she's your sock puppet? Yeah, of course. Even Republicans are calling it out. Rand Paul did right here.
Paul, let me start right there. So we heard from Steve Witkoff. I know you've raised concerns about this gift of this Qatari jet. He says the Qataris are giving it simply because they've decided to donate something because of all the wonderful things that we've done for them in the past. Do you buy that the Qataris don't expect anything in return for a $400 million gift?
I guess, first of all, I think my fear is that it detracts from a largely successful trip where the president is talking about opening up and doing more trade with the Middle East, which is a good thing, particularly amidst all the protectionism and directing away from trade that we've had going on. I would say that we sell more arms than any other country in the world. We are the largest arms merchant in the entire world, and a lot of those arms go to Gulf sheikdoms and monarchies like the Qataris. Those decisions are made by the executive branch. We have a veto power in Congress, and I've been part of vetoing or trying to veto arms before to Qatar as well as to Saudi Arabia over human rights abuses. So could it color the perception of the administration if they have a $400 million plane to be more in favor of these things? Perhaps. It at least gives the appearance of a conflict of interest. I don't think it's worth the headache, and I think it's detracting from a largely successful trip to the Middle East, which includes a lot of good things as far as expanding trade.
He also said it's a perfectly legal transaction. Do you see it that way? I know you raised questions about the emoluments clause.
I think it sort of depends on how the transaction is set up. Is there a possibility that, could they donate it back to Boeing and Boeing sells it to us? There's a lot of ways this could be arranged, but I think what set up signals that people were concerned about was that it was going to be temporarily part of the government and then it was going to the president's library when the president retires. So I think all of those things could be fixed, could be corrected. There probably is a perfectly legal way, but right now it's raised more questions than I think it's worth.
Yeah. So before Donald Trump starts threatening to investigate VP Harris and Bruce Springsteen and Beyonce, maybe you take a look in the mirror at your own actually corrupt actions, like your actual corruption that couldn't be more blatant and is being called out by even your supporters. Have you considered that for a single second? Clearly not, which is why Donald Trump will continue to get called out. And I said, I want to take a look at that Bruce Springsteen clip. Let's hear from the boss, right here.
Dreams, but things are happening right now that are altering the very nature of our country's democracy, and they're too important to ignore. So, first I want to thank you for indulging me. But in America, my home, they're persecuting people for their right to free speech and voicing their dissent.
It is so crazy that Donald Trump thinks being the most unpopular person in the country, VP Harris, would have to pay people to speak out against him instead of maybe this, human quality of care and passion, which Donald Trump does not understand in a context that does not exist within the confines of money and a transactional relationship. It really just goes to show how he thinks about the world, that he thinks everything is transactional. Because he would never do anything unless he was getting something like a plane illegally that we're going to call out on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.